All right, guys, surprisingly common question that I get is how do I load my backpack? Specifically, like what parts and pieces do you put where in your pack? So today I want to run through and show you how I load my backpack for a backpack elk hunt. I don't have my food. I'm going to touch on it though, where I load that. Your food is the bulk of your weight. So if I'm going on a 8-day backpack hunt, I can typically plan on 1.5 pounds, 2 pounds of food per day. So a significant amount of the weight that's actually going in my backpack is my food. So I'm going to touch on where I put that in my pack, where you want the heavy things, where you want the light things. So with that, let's just dive in. I'm going to pack my gear. I've got it kind of set out right here. I've got my Kafaru Absorka on the arc frame laying here on the table. Basically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to open this thing up. When I pack this bag, usually what I'll do is I'll start with this beaver tail opening as it kind of runs through the middle of the pack. One of the reasons I like this pack is because it has that. It allows me access to the main part of my bag without having to only use just the top lid or the top access. So basically I'm going to open up my pack. First things I'm going to put in my backpack are my sleep system. So my sleeping pad always goes in the bottom. I usually layer that up with my bivvy or my tent. If I had a small 2-person or 1-man tent, I would kind of tuck that in the front of it. So basically I'm going to put those two in the bottom. After that, I'm going to layer my tarp in there on top of it. Again, if you're using a 2-man tent or a 1-man tent, that's a good option for it. It's kind of right here stuffed in the bottom of your pack. After I've got that kind of laid in, usually what I like to do is zip this thing up and then start from the top. And again, you can load from the top if you want to. I just use this beaver tail quite a bit. Basically, I'm going to set that thing up. Next piece that goes in my backpack is my sleeping bag. So I already noted in another video, but a compression sack for your sleeping bag is really important because it allows you to compress that down bag into a small package. When you're backpack hunting, your food's going to take up a lot of room, the rest of your gear, so you need to be able to compact that sleeping bag into as small as package as you get. So I'm going to drop that in at the top, and I'm going to kind of push it in and lay it flat on top. So I'm not putting that sleeping bag in vertically, I'm putting it in, horizontally. After that is when I'm going to start layering up my food. So my food, for the purpose of just showing you, I'll open up this beaver tail. But basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to load up the bulk of my food against the frame in the back of the bag. And I'm going to layer that weight up on top of my lighter items, my sleep system, and I'm going to layer that food up here. Now, if I'm going on an 8-day backpack hunting trip, I'll probably put 7 days worth of food kind of in that mid portion against my back. And I might reserve one bag, so 1-gallon Ziploc bag with my food for a day, and I might put it at the top so I've got easy access for it. But basically what you want to do is you want to layer up the heavier items in your backpack to the back of the frame and kind of in the middle of the bag. And the reason you want to do that is because that's where that frame is going to carry the most comfortably. You're basically putting that weight, the heaviest weight, up above your hips. It's going to kind of support it with that lumbar pad. It's going to free up your hips for a natural gait when you're hiking. So that's where I'd put my food. After that, I would layer up other items. So game bags, a lot of people like to store them in a stuff sack or something like that. I typically just keep them loose, and it's because I can stuff those in any little nook or cranny in my backpack. And I just kind of stick them in, and it helps me save and take up space that otherwise might just be wasted. So I'm going to throw in other items again, assuming I got my food right here, kind of tucked in the middle. I'm just going to layer in the rest of my gear. I'm pretty particular about putting the same items in my backpack in the exact same spots. It just helps me ensure that I don't lose it, and I know exactly where to find it. So my pillow, I always put in this little pouch right here that sits on the inside of this bag, which is basically built for a water bladder. I don't use a water bladder, so I often just store pieces of equipment like my saw, my pillow, in that little pocket so that I know that they're in there and I don't lose them, I don't misplace them. I always put them in the exact same spot every time I make camp. With that, I'm just going to keep kind of layering it up. Again, my possibles pouch is pretty heavy. I've got all my loose gear in there, my battery packs, all my knives, blades, med kit, everything. It's actually decently heavy. So again, I want to ensure that those heavier pieces are kind of in the middle of the bag against the frame, if you will. So I'm just kind of layering up as I go. Again, I'm just kind of stuffing these where they make sense. Once I get up to that point, I'll kind of zip that off and close it, and I'll load everything from the top. Clothing items that I might need quick access to. So my gloves, I typically put those in the front part of the pack in this little pocket. Some of your packs, depending on what you buy, may not have these organizational pockets on the outside of the bag. They might have them on the inside, or they may not have any at all. In those cases, I just would encourage you to store your gear that you might need quick access to somewhere kind of on the peripheral so that you can get to it really quick. My rain gear, for example, I often store in this front pouch, and this one has two pouches. You can see there's actually one here that's even bigger. But I will often store my rain gear in those types of areas because I want to be able to get to it really quick. If you're anything like me, you're probably prone to waiting to the very last moment to get your rain gear out. You're trying to kind of gauge how bad the storm is going to be. You might try to ride it out. But basically, I want to keep my rain gear in a spot that when I really need to get to it quickly, that I can get to it. Other items you might put in something like this, you might put a spare headlamp in something close to you like this that you can grab really quick. But you kind of want to be aware of that as you're packing your bag. My beanie, for example, I wear it quite a bit. I always store it somewhere here in the exterior portion in one of these pockets. Again, as I go, I just am kind of layering up. My clothing system is relatively lightweight. I don't mind putting that at the top of my bag in the main part. Again, in the morning, you're probably putting that jacket on when you're getting ready to go out. You're probably going to hunt in it for maybe 2 or 3 hours until that temperature starts to rise, or if you're really exerting a lot of effort, you're sweating a lot, you may want to peel that thing off and put it in. Top of the pack's a great spot for it. Down jacket, again, you can carry a stuff sack for it if you want and really compress it down. I don't mind just stuffing it in the loose space. So I'm just kind of stuffing that thing in loosely, and it allows me to really compact it down into the bag itself. Loose things, water bottle. If I've got this thing full, and this is like a backup for me, and I've got a full one in my hip belt pocket so that I'm constantly getting a drink when I need it. But if I've got one of these and I'm like storing it for later in the day, water's pretty heavy. So this would be an item that I would store kind of in that midsection along the back of my backpack with my food. So generally, the rules I would suggest to you: sleep system in the bottom, pretty lightweight. Your sleeping pad's a great spot for the bottom of your pack, your tarp, your tent, and then kind of layering up with the heavier items that you're carrying. If you're carrying a spotting scope and you don't have an external pocket like this, it's great for that piece to go against the frame towards the middle of the backpack where you're putting the bulk of that weight. So pretty simple. I would say take-home message is lightweight, heavyweight against the frame, and then lightweight at the top. Maybe one bag of food at the top that you're going to eat from for the day. Any clothing items that you might need access to, stick those in these external pockets if you got them. If not, stick them somewhere on the peripheral, like on the top is a great spot so you can access them quickly. But that's how I pack my backpack. I think it's the most efficient. I think it carries better if you kind of follow that rule of light, heavy, light. And I think you'll have a good experience as long as you pack your bag properly and you've actually taken the time to fit your pack to your body. So with that, if you got questions, feel free to drop them in the comments below. If you think I've missed something, or if you think it makes sense to do something else, I'd love to hear about it. But with that, get out, get backpacking, get out scouting, and get ready to go hunting in the fall. It'll be here before we know it.